Hey, what's up guys, it's Matt with Movement System. I'm here with Dr. Zaki Afzal, and today we're going to be talking about low back pain with cricket bowling. We're going to start by discussing why you might be having low back pain with cricket bowling, some of the body mechanics, and some of the training factors that are going to relate to that. And then at the end of the video, we're going to give you 2 drills that might start to help with that back pain. So to start off, why might we be having back pain with cricket bowling?
So like anything with back pain, first thing we have to understand is that back pain is really, really prevalent in almost everybody's life. In the US at least, about 80% of people throughout their lifetime get low back pain. Now, does it mean that we're broken? Does it mean that we're injured? Most likely not, because most back pain resolves itself. Now, when we look at back pain with athletic movements like bowling, we have to understand that bowling is a total body exercise. It's not something that we're looking at just the shoulder, just the low back. We're putting stress throughout the whole body, and we have to understand why is this stress being pinpointed at the low back. When we look at other stress in humans, we always look at how the human is sleeping, how the athlete is eating, how are they doing stress management. So those things are really important factors as well. But today we're going to talk more about the biomechanics.
Yeah, so we'll just touch on those factors a little bit. Some things you can think about in your own training. Has your sleep changed dramatically in the last few weeks or a few days? Has some other aspect of your training changed to where you're doing twice as much activity as you were doing a week ago or a month ago? In that case, it could be a workload management issue or a stress management issue that's leading to this back pain more so than the biomechanical factors. So you're gonna have to consider both in your individual case to problem solve for what's gonna work for you.
Yeah, and when a bowler comes in with low back pain, we don't treat the low back, we treat the bowler with low back pain. So we have to look at this person and say, hey, what's contributing to this factor? So when we look at somebody with low back pain as a bowler, we want to look at them and actually see them bowl. We want to see what do the movements look like. Do they have the prerequisite mobility in the shoulder, in the low back, in those areas that need to be able to move during bowling? And one of the biggest things we see with people with low back pain during bowling is we see them having limited shoulder mobility, right? So limited shoulder mobility, what it will do, I'll kind of demonstrate here, is as you go through the rotation of bowling, if I can't get my arm up this way and have good shoulder mobility, I'm going to be leaning over with my low back to get this mobility through my shoulder. And it's not that that's wrong, that's just a way for my back to take more stress. Us changing, if I'm throwing the ball at the same speed, I'm putting the same amount of stress throughout my body. How I do it will dictate where that stress goes, but I can't change the stress going through my body, I can dictate where it goes.
Yeah, so some of the biomechanics that we're talking about here will shift the stress from one position to another. So if you're experiencing a lot of stress, for example, on one side of your lower back, and we can resolve that a little bit by moving that stress throughout the body, helping the rest of the body attenuate forces better. And one example of that is just by increasing your shoulder mobility to change the way that you're moving.
Yeah, and when we look at bowlers with low back pain, we will start at the low back. A lot of times, is the low back moving well? During bowling, we need extension throughout the low back, we need flexion throughout the low back, we also need side bending and rotation. So there's not really a lot of motions that you can be missing and have a fully functioning low back during bowling. But luckily, we have ways to restore those and ways to improve those.
Yeah, exactly. So let's go ahead and get into a couple of drills that might help you with your pain. So let's go ahead and give you a little start here.
So the first drill we're going to look at is we're going to look at improving the ability for the rib cage to side bend and rotate. The more the rib cage and the thoracic spine can side bend and rotate, the less the low back has to do. Now, like we said, it's not that the low back can't handle this. We want to bring more people to the party and allow more parts of his body to be able to throw the velocity into the ball and be able to improve the ability to produce force. So with Matt, I'm going to have him put his hands on the back of his head. He's going to rotate to his left as far as he can, and then he's going to side bend to his left. That means kind of tilt over to his left side. He should already be feeling a good amount of a stretch here on his rib cage, and now where I have my fingers here, he's going to take a deep breath in through his nose, right into his ribs here. And what I want him to feel here is expansion all along this area. Luckily, it doesn't require a lot of breaths here to kind of get this motion. It takes about 5 breaths here at a time. Right? And a good retest to see if I'm moving better is if Matt comes back to a starting position, is he can just check what his rotation looks like, and then he could do 4 or 5 breaths and then recheck that afterwards to see did he get any improvement. And more of that rotation we have, that means the better the rib cage is moving, the better the thoracic spine is moving, and coincidentally the shoulder is going to move better as well, and that means all of that means less stress in the low back.
So where's a good place for them to start in terms of how many sets and reps to do with this drill?
Yeah, I'll usually start with 2 to 3 sets of anywhere between 5 to 10 breaths. Luckily with this, it's so low impact that you really can't overdo it. So the big thing with this is you don't want to crank yourself into a position that's so uncomfortable that you can't even get a breath in. Because if you do that, you're not utilizing that breath to expand the rib cage. All those muscles are already tight, and it's basically, if we look at the rib cage like a balloon, it's tightening that balloon and we're not able to get the air in through that. So we want to make sure he's in a nice open position where he gets a little bit of a stretch, but the air can still get in there comfortably.
The second drill that we're going to show you is called a prone press up, and this is specifically to work on extension of the lower back. If we can extend the lower back better without as much resistance to that movement, and we can get into that position better, then we're going to be more comfortable in that position and be able to tolerate loads better when we're going through the positions involved in sport. So we're going to show you that exercise here on the ground.
So what Matt's going to do here, he's going to lie down on the ground, face down. He's going to put his hands in a push-up position. The further down towards his feet his hands move, the harder this exercise becomes. The further up he moves it, the easier this exercise becomes. The key here is making sure he's relaxing his glutes and relaxing his low back muscles. We want complete relaxation to maximize motion here. So now he's going to use, this is the first stage here. We can just kind of come up onto his elbows. And coming out to his elbows, you can see he's getting this extension throughout the low back. And with this, we're just getting things moving. And then as you progress, you want to do almost a push-up into a yoga position called the cobra. But with the cobra, we do try to turn these muscles on. But with this, we're going to have him just do the press up all the way up. So push through your hands, Matt, and then get the elbows, straighten the elbows out as far as you can. So go, yeah, there you go. And now he's getting full extension throughout the low back. And then come on back down. And you can also do a little bit of breath at the top to sag down a little bit, get a little bit more motion. So you can see here, Matt has pretty decent extension. One of the main things we want to do with this exercise is make sure Matt gets his elbows extended. Even if his hips come off the ground, it's important to get the elbows extended to maximize range of motion here and induce relaxation.
All right, so give those 2 drills a try, but remember there's not any 1 or 2 individual exercises that are going to always perfectly resolve your pain. So this isn't intended to specifically treat any specific diagnoses, and it's not necessarily going to 100% resolve your symptoms. Some things that might help is just getting your training in order and pretty consistent. And if you guys are interested in it, you can check out our 12-week program to help you get that done. That 12-week program is going to offer you a consistent workload in the strength and conditioning work that you're doing, and by building strength in your back, in your arms, in your legs, and in all your tissues that are involved in the cricket motions, we're going to actually have a better workload tolerance, so that way you don't get irritated whenever you're going through those extreme positions.
And we always recommend when you're dealing with something like this and you feel like something is really wrong, see a healthcare professional. This is great advice you can receive from people online, but we don't have you in front of us and we don't have the ability to assess you like a real healthcare professional does. So make sure if you're really dealing with something and it hasn't resolved in a reasonable amount of time, that you go see a healthcare professional.
Yep. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Go ahead and check the description below if you're interested in our 12-week program, and you can also download 5 key drills to improving your cricket performance in the description below. Also, if you're not already, you can join the Cricket Strength and Conditioning Facebook group in the link in the description below. If you have any questions, go ahead and drop them in the comments below, and we'll be happy to guide you. Thanks so much for watching, and we will catch you in the next one.